topic for today, though, Kate. Something
Mhm.
that now comes to mind a lot for me, being dad of two and
Mhm.
trying to fit work in, is time effective strength programming. How to get the biggest bang for your buck.
Yes, I think this is most endurance athletes' issue. In fact, the first study of my PhD, we actually did a survey for long distance triathletes. We had 390 long distance triathletes. We surveyed them on their biggest barrier to completing strength training. And the number one thing was, no surprise, time restraints. It was really interesting though, because that was reported by over 50%. I think it was about 54% of participants. And then we also surveyed them on hours that they worked, training hours, all these other factors. And there was, in those who reported time restraints, there was no relationship with hours worked or training hours, all the factors you think would influence it. So it was really interesting to actually sort of then delve into that. But absolutely, I'm like you. I've got two little kids. We run these businesses, and I love the gym. I know what to do in the gym, but I still find it hard to find the time to go to the gym. So it's definitely, I'm excited to talk about today and break that barrier down.
Yeah, what is your go-to time, Kate, for the gym then? What's your, like I'm in there and I'm like maxing out about 45 minutes. Part of
Mm-hmm.
that's attention span, but part of it's time related as well.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
I'm personally more of a 60-minute kind of fan. But that's my maximum. I don't spend any more time on that in the gym than that, unless I'm just really, really enjoying it, or I'm listening to a good podcast or getting into my tunes. And then it's purely more of an enjoyment thing if I spend more time in there. But I know I'm probably the anomaly that really likes to spend time in the gym. Most people go, get me in, get me out. But I think 60 minutes is the maximum. I think your 40 to 45 minutes is the sweet spot. But you can go
Nice.
to the gym for endurance athletes for as little as 15 minutes and you can still actually get something out of your strength program.
Yeah, cool. I was actually chatting to an athlete about that. Must have been a couple of days ago, just rehabbing from an injury and trying to challenge them to think about what's something they can do for 10 to 15 minutes every day
Yeah.
to help get back on top of that injury rather than sort of just doing it every second day and including it in terms of their gym program rather than dragging out specific pieces which are going to help in a certain area and address a
Yeah.
certain area. And then potentially we'll be able to shift that right in 6 weeks' time, what that
Mhm.
specific piece is, and address another area, but trying to get them to do that consistently throughout a week.
Yeah, and you've actually nailed it there. And one of the key things that I was going to talk about is just like knowing your goals. So I think there's so much varying information out there about what you should do in the gym, and you start to get caught up in all these different exercises. But if you just focus on your goals, so if you just go, okay, say for example, like your athlete that you're talking about, if they had an injury, then their goal is to get better from that, right? I had a lady yesterday. She's a new mum of two kids, and she says she can go to the gym. It's just down the road from her, but she can only do 30 minutes in the gym. So I'm like, okay, that's your run performance stuff. You're going to go and do lift the heavy stuff while you're there. And then your injury prevention stuff, you're just going to do at home. So we make it into, like you kind of said, these more like kind of bite-sized kind of sessions. And that's a lot more feasible for her. But we don't build her program up full of all this other stuff. It's just, what's your goals? And then, like you said, then in the next block, okay, maybe that injury's gone. So what's your next goal? Is it now just performance now that we've nailed that? Or we're just maintaining that, not coming back? So one of your biggest tips, focus on your goals. Don't get distracted by everything else around it.
Yeah, I think that's really nice because I think it gives some really specificity of what you're trying to achieve as well when you go in there, and it
Yeah.
helps to drive motivation. Cool, I'm here because I'm trying to do this.
Yeah.
And after 6 weeks, you might achieve that, or 8 weeks, and then you can say, well, do I want to advance this further, or
Mm,
what's my next step along this pathway? And we talked about that even with plyometrics,
yeah.
starting basic and then going to advanced. That can even just be pieced down to those 15-minute blocks. This is what I'm going to do. This
Yeah.
is why. And then after that, I'm moving on to the next set of exercises and trying to step forward.
Yeah, exactly. So I always say, whenever I do a consult with someone, I say, what are your goals? And I say, you can have up to 3 goals, and they're generally like a short, medium, and longer term one. And then I only make the program to target that. It can be shifting, so it can change. That goal can obviously change over time, but I go, okay, that's what we're going to work on. And your strength program is just going to achieve that rather than filling it up with all this other stuff. And also, you can target multiple goals at once. So this is one of my other big tips for making a time effective program, is pick your exercises that let's say that example, like in your athlete, if they have an injury, so let's say it's a glute injury, for example, maybe glute tendinopathy, you go, okay, we can target both performance and injury prevention in one movement if we pick the exercise wisely. So let's say that they have a form of glute tendinopathy. So you could give them something, depending on obviously what stage they're at, you could say, okay, let's do a split squat. So it's single limb position. You're going to be obviously in that staggered stance or that single leg position. So you're going to be targeting your glute med and glute min with that movement compared to, say, a traditional squat. But you could then load them up depending what stage they're rehab in, but relatively heavy. So then you're getting performance benefits as well. So if you know your exercise choices or you're working with someone that knows them well, you can target those. You go, cool, injury prevention, tick, but background goal, long-term goal was still run performance, great. So you just pick your exercises wisely to target both of those. So then you're not doing all this isolated stuff and then having to go on to say your other run performance goals. So usually when people see me for strength training, it's either to address an injury or improve performance. And you can generally put them together. So that's like my other big tip. Pick your exercises wisely and target those goals all in one. That's generally compound movements, and you might not be able to do that straight away if you're new to the gym, but shifting towards that is a really, really helpful thing to do.
Yeah, I like the use of compound movements. I think there's such an effective way to get a whole lot of strength in, and to work across a wider range of motion as well, which we often don't do. What's your take? This is probably a little bit out of what we're going to talk about. What's your take then on like powerlifting movements or Olympic lifts? So your cleans and your snatches and that sort of thing.
Love, absolutely love them.
Yep, awesome.
If the athlete can handle them. So, and what I mean by that also is if they have the confidence to. If I have a long distance triathlete who's chronically fatigued and doesn't have a background in the gym, there's something that I would work towards over, it could even be over a 12-month period. Or I would change something like a clean to, say, just a triple extension. But they're fantastic movements because you work on plyometrics. So you work on like that explosive strength. You can lift heavy with them as well. You're working on coordination. So you're getting that muscular control in those movements. They're generally lower and upper body. So you're getting everything. Heaps of core. You can get some mobility in there with like your warm-ups towards those lifts as well. But they're amazing. And also, if you look at a lot of the national level teams, so I know that in Europe, a lot of their cyclists do movements that are like broken down cleans. Like they break those movements down and often they put them together. Like Olympic lifts are a big part of their strength program. So I am a massive fan, and they do hit those time restraints like barriers because they're really, really effective at fitting everything in one. Like one of my go-tos, if I want to work on run performance but still get a bit of core and upper body loading, I do a hang clean. I'm like, yep.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. Love it. I love a clean. Yeah, hang clean, good.
Absolutely. And then you can tie in like your warm-ups for those with your injury prevention stuff. So you can do like some, glute pull-throughs or even some just like pull to knees. And then you can do slightly higher rep ranges with those. But then you're working on glute strength, hamstring mobility, core strength, lat strength, all in your warm-up. So that's one of my other good go-tos is like, don't go in the gym and do a warm-up of like I sit on the stationary bike and spin my legs over for 5 minutes, or I go and I hop on the treadie for 5 minutes. It's like there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but your warm-up is to get increase in blood flow and neural activation for the movements that you're doing. So if you go in and you just do a general warm-up, you're going to increase your heart rate a little bit. You're going to get an increase in blood flow, but it's not specific to your main set lifts, like tying in that injury prevention and strengthening and mobility in your warm-up. So then you're getting warmed up, you're targeting those things, and then you get some heavy lifts in the main set too. And it's like, presto, simples, but you're getting everything.
Yeah, job done, right? And
exactly.
I think the nice thing I like about warm-up is trying to get my range going.
Yes.
I found that a really effective way to build in, because you sit on a bike or you run on a treadmill, you're not working your range at all. You're just going back to your linear motion that you always do on a daily basis, especially as a triathlete.
Yes.
So I really like the range stuff within a warm-up and really trying to challenge myself rotationally from a triathlete perspective, because we are so linear. And so any warm-up routine where, whether it's, I can't even name the exercise at the moment, but even book openers and then reverse ones and banded ones. Yeah. And then I had a physio give me a really cool one the other day where I'm rolling onto my side and pushing my leg through, feeding my leg through.
Yep.
Getting up onto your side. Wouldn't have a name for that at the moment, so But
Oh,
you could
I
name
change
it, Kate, maybe.
exercise names all the time. I'm
Yeah,
just like, I just demonstrate it. I'm like, this
yeah,
one.
yeah, that one. It's so
Yeah.
good though, because you're getting all this rotational and stability control,
Hmm.
as well as having to have your glutes activated because you're up in a bridge position.
Hmm.
And then you're coming back and through the other way. And just exercises like that, I think, are advancing what we can get out of a gym program and how we can condense it down.
Yeah, and exactly. So you're then targeting on like you're getting injury prevention and mobility and strength all in one movement. And I tell that to people too. I'm like, look, we know that strengthening is just as, if not more effective than stretching when it comes to improving mobility. So if you spend this time in the gym and you do those movements, particularly in your warm up or time under tension with your heavy loads in your main set lifts, say like stiff leg and deady, then you're getting all of those things in one movement and you don't need to spend your time stretching or foam rolling at home because you're already doing them through active, like dynamic movements. So it's actually can be really, really time effective in tying that in. But yeah, I love those ones that you were talking about, or even like a thoracic one, like a half range, like Turkish get up kind of thing, or like a
Yep.
thoracic rotation. But you can do that with a kettlebell in your hand, which you could hold bottoms up or normally. And then you're getting lots of shoulder stability and lots of strength through there, which is really good. Or even you sort of tied in there like about loading up through the lower limbs as well. Things like your pogos. I love to do those, not as the first exercise because you want to warm up a little bit more before them, maybe do like say around calf raises, but then your pogos are so good because they obviously work on a lot of neuromuscular control, a lot of musculoskeletal stiffness, particularly through your calves and your Achilles, but they're really good bone loading as well. So again, you're targeting that in to improve your bone mineral density all in one movement. So just, yeah, really wisely pick those exercises and keep your program really, really simple is definitely the way to go. You can target everything in smart choices.
Yeah. And how often, if we're going for a time effective program, then Kat, how often would you change it up so that you're getting some variety in there if you're trying to condense things a little bit? And yeah,
Yeah.
there's going to be some go-to lifts that you're going to want to do and you're going to want to
Mm.
change up. So how often would you change that program?
I would probably change it. It really depends on the athlete and when they sort of hit those goals. If they are working on an injury, I would progress it probably every couple of weeks because they're going to adapt really well and their injury is going to change, hopefully, obviously, for the better. So I would change generally sort of every 2 to 3 weeks to make sure that I'm continually progressing them. But if we were working more just on performance, I probably wouldn't go for about 4 or 5 weeks because you want to really focus on that particular movement and the load. So I wouldn't change the exercise choice, but I would change the load almost every session. So one of the really good go-tos that I love for a really short, sharp, simple program, and I'm sure I've talked about this study, I know I've talked about it on my channel before, but on the Fitter podcast, I'm sure I have. There's a group of researchers that have done the same study, one in runners and one in cyclists. And all that they did was 4 sets of 4 back squats, or actually they were squats holding onto heavy dumbbells. So 4 sets of 4 squats at 4 RM. So that means the maximum weight the cyclist or the runner could have done for 4 reps. And then they did 4 sets and they did that 3 times a week. And that was it. So that's only going to take you like 15 to 20 minutes in the gym. So that's why I say it can be really simple, right? And that works a little bit of upper body, lots of core, but obviously lower limb strength. And that significantly improves cycling and running economy. And these were high level athletes as well. But they didn't change the exercise at all over 12 weeks. That's all they did was just
Wow.
squats. Yeah, but what they did change was the second that the athletes said that they could do another repetition, they added 2.5 kilograms of weight. So they did progressively overload the athletes. So I
Yep.
think you either change the exercise or you change the load. And I think sometimes people change exercises too much just for the sake of it. So I would say, no, stick to the same exercise, progress the load for 4 or 5 weeks, then evaluate, do I need to change the exercise or is it what I should be doing? If you're happy with it, just keep progressing the load. But that load should progress almost every session if you can.
Yeah, nice. And I think one thing I've experienced here is, and we see it within triathlon programs as well, as people trying to change exercises or want week to week to be different and look different.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
often we don't get to adapt to a session. We'll do a session once. That'll be our learning of the session. The next time we'll sort of adapt to it, and the third time we'll sort of accept it. And so You almost need to do those exercises 3 times to be effective at them, and then you might actually be able to load them
Yeah.
effectively, especially if you're going for some more advanced exercises. So I think it's a really important concept for people to think about. Change for the sake of change isn't often very helpful in terms of progressing forward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100% agreed with you on that one. Yeah, it's like the same sessions are good. It's like, you do that a lot in your running and your cycling sessions. You have like key sessions that you do on repeat quite a lot. And it's the same thing with your weights. But if anything, it should be more with your weights because there's a lot of technique involved, right? And especially if
Mm.
you're new to strength training, just focus on the simple stuff and get it right because a lot of people just don't do that.
Yeah, big time. Oh, that's
Mhm.
awesome, Kate. Thanks for dropping in on that one. That's a really good, I think, lessons for people to think about how they condense their programs up.
Yeah.
And basically, what we're saying to people is there's no excuses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, there are. Look, I let mine slip a little bit when I had my boys and things were getting kind of busy, but take it short. Don't set unattainable goals. Just go in 15 minutes, tick, tick, done,
Yeah,
maintain.
exactly. 15 minutes is all it takes. And you can do that in your
Exactly.
garage real easy
Exactly.
whilst holding your baby.
That was my weight. Like, as my bubs got bigger, I was like, oh, look, I'm
Yeah.
getting stronger.
Yeah. Progressive loading is perfect.
Exactly. That's it. Awesome. Good to chat,
Oh,
Tim.
awesome, Kate. Catch you later.
Bye.